What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the MLB Swing for the Fences show here on the Run For Your Sports YouTube channel. Talking Tuesday's monster 12-game MLB slate. I think my favorite baseball slate of the entire year. Steve Boyden, we know how that'll end. But I'm excited for this one. We've been, of course, in the Discord, both of us all day with the members. Lively crew in the Discord today. And this is a good one. And one that, we'll see. I think you and I have both been playing DFS long enough where, sometimes being excited for a slate doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work out for you. But we're hoping to get to the winner's circle tonight, breaking down all the games, 12 games to talk about. We'll go game by game as we always do. And guessing the show might go a little bit over time with the 12 games on the slate. Lots to talk about. But we'll go over to you, Steve Boyden. How you doing on this Tuesday afternoon?
Good. Had a fun weekend. I was out of town in Louisville for the UFC fights, which were fun. But yeah, back at it. It was odd not being on the Friday show watching the fireworks show. We did that from the bar, so that was kind of fun. But yeah, happy back at it. We've got 12 games on the slate, like you said. We were talking earlier. Hopefully, some of these teams that we like when they're at home, like the Reds, start playing more of these 7-10 Eastern games. So hopefully this is a sign of things to come as it turns to summer.
That would be nice. But, listen, I'm just glad they're on the slate today. We'll see. I haven't looked at the Reds schedule going forward, but certainly happy they are on the slate on this day. Do you say you were watching the Friday night fireworks show from the bar? Is that true, or are you just trying to fluff me up a little bit?
No, we were pre-gaming because we went to the WWE event. Was also in Louisville, which I didn't know until Friday morning. So we ended up doing that Friday night, and before we headed over there, we had the show on while we were doing some pre-gaming.
All right, I appreciate the dedication. It's very, very good. We do have 3 or 4 early games, but then we do have the slate starting in earnest at 7:10 Eastern time. So no more, no more BS. We got to get into this one. And there is a lot to talk about, as I mentioned. And frankly, some people I know in chat are going to be like, oh, you're not on this or that. And this is just one of those slates where you're going to have to miss out on some good spots. I mean, I think 7 or 8 pitchers I think are in play. And then there's also somehow I don't know, I think I could make the case for 8 or 9 stacks. I'm trying to keep it pretty condensed. There are a couple spots that I, of course, like even better than normal. So that's my approach, but certainly, I understand. And I think ownership is actually going to be pretty spread out for a 12-game slate. So should be a really fun one, but let's get into it. Philadelphia and Boston up first. This one in Fenway. We've got the most expensive pitcher on the slate here, Zach Wheeler, 10.5K on DraftKings, up to 11K on FanDuel. So you certainly have to pay the price if you want Zach Wheeler. He'll go up against Cutter Crawford, who looked like he had made a pretty big leap forward at the start of the year, but the month of May and now into June has kind of slowed down. Right, he hasn't scored 20 DraftKings points in any of his last 6 starts now. He's had some relatively tough opponents, but he hasn't been great. He gets a Phillies team here who we know the damage that they can do. An awesome lineup. They did lose JT Realmuto. Looks like he's going to be out at least a month here. So that certainly does weaken their lineup a little bit. Garrett Stubbs in there catching for Zach Wheeler. We talked a little bit about that. I don't think it should be completely overlooked. And then the Red Sox, they do get back Devers, who's missed. I think he missed on Sunday, and Masataka Yoshida as well. Not a big bat. Not that Yoshida's in play, but he has a contact-oriented bat. And I do think it lowers, the ceiling a little bit for Zach Wheeler. Listen, I think Wheeler will pitch well here, but on a slate where there's not that many cheap bats that you really want to play, at least in my opinion, 10.5K for Wheeler feels a little steep to me personally. I'm probably not going to go there much, if at all. And again, I do expect him to pitch well. I just don't think he's going to get the 30 plus that I think you might need from that price tag tonight. No real interest in Crawford for me. And then the final thing I'll mention, with no, I did look up at the split. Someone actually brought it up in Discord, in MLB Discord. Wheeler's splits with Real Muto compared to Stubbs are pretty extreme. Now, it's obviously a small sample size, but I have noticed this with some pitchers before. Losing your catcher, it can make a difference just in your comfort on the mound. Don't love the park, obviously, pitching in Fenway. So kind of off of Wheeler here myself. But where do you stand, Steve? First game of the night, Red Sox and Phillies.
Yeah, Wheeler looking like, about 25, 30% owned here. I'm not sure if it hurts his ceiling. I think it just like extends his range of outcomes. I think more often he has a so-so outing now with this lineup is I think how I would put it. I think he's a decent play. I'm going to have him probably a bit under the field. I'll probably play about 20% Wheeler in this spot. You know, he's been awesome. He had that one bad start against, I think it was Miami. It was like a day game in Miami. Besides that, he's been great. The spot, though, like you said, Boston has really hit right-handed pitching well. You know, but they do also strike at a top 10 rate in the splits. Everything backs up his strong start to the season. No qualms with the price tag, that's for sure. He's not my favorite pitcher on the slate, but he's going to be in my pool about 20%. With the injury to Real Muto, we do get a pretty cheap Phillies lineup for the back half here. I think they're at least in play. I was pretty high coming in or on Cutter coming into the season. He's really struggled the last couple starts. I'm not using him here. I think you could use the Phillies here in Boston. I feel like on a different slate, you know, a smaller slate, this might be a spot where they're higher owned. I see everyone under 5%. And you can get the big bats because they are starting Dahl, they are starting Stubbs, Rojas, Sosa. So I'm contemplating including the Phillies in my 20 lineups here at DC. I think they're like right on the fringe of playable as a 5-man in this spot.
Yeah, I think you nailed it when you said, you know, on a different slate, I would be absolutely be in on the Phillies here. I don't dislike them. I certainly wouldn't be shocked if they put up 10-plus runs on Cutter Crawford and the Red Sox. I just like some other spots better. I'm playing 150 tonight, so I'm going to have the Phillies mixed in, but they're not really all that close, honestly, to being at the top of my list personally. Not playing, because I think I'm completely Xing out the entire Red Sox team, bats and Cutter Crawford, of course, and I'm not going to play too much Wheeler. And then, I do think, the Phillies could absolutely get the job done. Great place to hit in Fenway. No problem at all with them. I just, like I said, I do like other places a little bit better. Let's get to one of those spots up next. Cleveland and Cincinnati. We've got a bullpen game, right, for the Reds, at least to some extent. They're going to start. Looks like Brent Suter is going to open the game. Actually pitched pretty well this year for the most part. And then Nick Martinez is going to be the bulk guy. He's been kind of average-ish, I would say. Last pitched on June 7th, did Martinez. So I think he could maybe go 3 or 4 innings here, I think is possible for Martinez. Not someone that you need to fear. I do think the Guardians are a decent play here, as most teams are, right, going into Great American Ballpark. And, yes, like Suter's obviously not someone you need to avoid, either as Martinez, and the rest of the Reds bullpen, is a little bit shaky. So I do like the Guardians, but to me, my favorite stack on the entire slate by far, the stack that makes me so excited about this slate is the Cincinnati Reds. We alluded to it when we were opening the show. Just a ridiculously good spot for the Reds against Tristan McKenzie, who I know we've been kind of stacking against him a lot this year, and frankly, it's worked okay, but hasn't gotten blown up to the point that we've kind of expected him to. He has given up 8 home runs in his last 3 starts, 15 innings between those 3 starts. So he's given up. I mean, this dude is just walking the yard. Based on balls 2, 3, 3, 4, 3, 3. There's a 6 in there at the beginning of the year, a 4. So tons of walks. Tons of home runs. He gives, he's one of the lowest ground ball guys in the entire league. So he's putting guys all over the base paths. He has given up home runs. He is much worse against lefties in general, which is the better side to hit in Great American Ballpark to begin with. That's where the most home runs go out, is to right center field. And most of the bats that you want in this Reds lineup do swing from the left side. And then finally, we get to, I think, maybe the most overlooked or the biggest thing against McKenzie is the stolen base upside for the Reds here. Absolutely massive when you look at, especially like just the enormous walk rate that McKenzie brings to the table. So there's going to be guys on base almost certainly. The Reds steal bases a ton. And McKenzie hasn't had a caught stealing since 2022. They obviously changed the rules, the stolen base rules, and the size of the bases and all that after in that offseason. It's been like 70 innings, base runners 12 for 12 against McKenzie. And I would be shocked if the Reds didn't steal bases almost every chance they get, frankly, when Tristan McKenzie is in there. Stevens does bring up a good point, good bullpen for the Guardians. So the Reds do need to get going early in this one. But man, I just see so much upside up and down this lineup. Ellie's expensive, of course, at $6K, but in my opinion, he is the best play overall on this slate of any bat. And I like pretty much everybody in this lineup. I'll probably pass on like Stevenson, but really he's the only one just because he doesn't have any speed himself, and he, is right-handed, so not an ideal spot for him. He's an okay play, obviously a catcher, but I love this Reds team, expecting big damage against McKenzie. And if they get guys on base, I think they're going to be off to the races. Just enormous upside, right? There's always a chance that McKenzie doesn't let him get on base and he throws strikes or whatever. But yeah, in terms of upside, I think, in my opinion, it's hard to make a case for any team other than the Reds tonight. They will be my highest owned team on this slate by a good margin. And it's a long rant for me, but love the big red machine tonight. Over to you, Steve, for Reds and Guardians.
Yeah, I'll just echo a couple things. Also, they're not expected to be super high owned at home here on a 12-game slate. When I opened this, I expected them to be much higher owned than they are. Like, the prices are gettable here. We were talking beforehand, you can 5-man this team with Ellie with 2 top arms if you want, or if you want an expensive secondary, you can go down. There's some pitchers that we'll talk about that fit with pretty much anything that you want to do here. The only concern I really have is with the bullpen if it's close, but if that happens, we're probably not doing too well anyways. We've been attacking McKenzie basically the entire season. It kind of sucked that he started to fall apart in games that weren't on slates for some reason, which is always kind of annoying, when you're kind of beating your head against the wall and then they finally get blown up in a spot where you can't really take full advantage. But the Reds profile perfectly. Having both Friedel and Fraley healthy at the same time is huge for this team. Just extends the lineup so much. Both guys steal. So I love the Reds here. Debating the 5-man on my main team. That's what I currently have. I think Cleveland's okay too. They're just expensive, right? Like, if I'm spending that much, I'm probably playing the Dodgers or the Phillies or something, or the Yankees, who we'll get to on this slate. So I think Cleveland works better for secondary stacks just because of the price tags. But overall, I think my biggest takeaway is I was just surprised at how low owned this game is projected to be for the bats. I think people still view McKenzie as the guy he was before the injury, and that's just not it. He doesn't have the velocity. He's clearly nibbling with diminished stuff. We've talked about that with a couple of pitchers this year, James Paxton, who we'll get to, like, the walk rate's just spiking. So these are the guys that we want to attack, guys who are going to give up base runners and power. So all over the Reds here.
Apologies for talking on this baseball talk show, Jordan. I'll do better and just sit here in awkward silence with Steve.
We'll just run highlights instead.
Get on out of here, Jordan. You're one comment away from getting the boot on this show. No bad mojo on today's show. That's Cleveland and Cincinnati, obviously very, very high on that game. Let's get to the next game on the slate, Miami and the New York Mets. Tyler McGill pitching for the Mets, 7,300 on DraftKings. One start removed from a 31 fantasy point day against the Dodgers, 7 shutout innings, 9 strikeouts in that one. Kind of come back to earth against the Nationals. But I do think a talented pitcher, 7,300, and a pretty good matchup for him too, obviously, against a light-hitting Marlins team for the most part. And then Jesus Luzardo, who's kind of fallen on some tough times this year. He's had some big games, but hit hard in general. A lot of barrels given up, especially to right-handed bats. But still upside there, I think, for Luzardo, despite the -10 he put up last time out against the Rays. The Mets have quietly started to hit for some real power from the right side, especially against left-handed pitching. I looked up, if you just look up at in the last 15 or 30 days, isolated power, expected WOBA against lefties, they are damn near the top of the list. So I do think the Mets are a little bit sneaky here, even against Luzardo, who obviously is capable of shutting a team down, getting Ks and all that. But I like the Mets a little bit. Their right-handed power in particular, but there's kind of a lot of it, right? Lindor, Alonso, JD Martinez, Vientos. They get Francisco Alvarez back in the lineup, who's a big stick from the right side. So a little bit of a scary spot for Luzardo, but certainly, 8,100. I'm guessing you're going to play him a little bit. I like McGill quite a bit at that price point. And then I don't think I'm going to play too many Marlins. They do have some left-handed pop, which is the best way to get to McGill. So Josh Bell, Jazz Chisholm, I don't think are terrible plays. I think there are just better ways to go on the slate. Where do you stand, Steve, on Marlins and Mets?
Yeah, I also wanted your opinion on this, both with the Mets and the Phillies coming back from London. I think that's, obviously a unique circumstance with both teams. It'll be interesting to see if that impacts them whatsoever. I like both arms here. I lean McGill with you. I think he's viable on a main lineup. Like you said, just one start ago, he was super popular in a worse spot. So now he's home against the Marlins. Really bad lineup, awesome park. McGill's velocity's up. He looked fine in the Nats start. Sometimes it just happens with guys who are league average, maybe a bit better than that. Sometimes they give up runs. It happens. So I think McGill's a great play. And then Luzardo, I just think he's going to be volatile, right? He misses bats, but he's also getting barreled. I think you're going to see extreme outcomes on both sides. So I think that's why he's a good tournament play. And if you're playing a bunch of lineups, I think that he's in play as long as his price stays down in that 8K-ish range. But I think you can also play Mets here. I'm trying to remember the last time I stacked against Luzardo. But getting Alvarez back is just huge for this lineup. He's super cheap. The whole lineup is cheap outside of Alonso and Nimmo here. I think I'm going to keep the Mets in the pool DC for secondary stacks, 2 and 3 mans. I think they're going to fit pretty well with the main stacks that we want. We got Vientos, Bader, Alvarez, all pretty cheap, all right-handers with power against a volatile lefty. So I rarely play both sides of the fence bit, but the way the Mets are swinging right now at these price tags, I think that they're good plays, especially in tournaments.
I think pretty good one-offs in particular. Of course, you can stack them up too, but what you're really looking for against Luzardo is a long ball, right? Because he'll fall behind in counts and he'll just, he's got a high-velocity fastball and he'll challenge hitters. And that leads to a lot of barrels given up to the right-handed power bat. So I'm with you there. Shrunk the Deuce brought up, Laz Diaz umpiring this game. Pretty big pitchers umpire. So if you're on the McGill or Luzardo train, a bump there. I'm not full stacking either of these teams, so I'm not too worried about playing individual bats with the pitchers umpire. But if you needed a nudge to McGill or perhaps Luzardo, maybe that's the nudge you need with Laz Diaz, pitchers umpire behind the plate in Miami and the New York Mets. we will keep it moving. Colorado and Minnesota up next. This one at Target Field in Minneapolis. Cal Quantrill pitching for Colorado, who's been shockingly competent this year, I would say. I used him last time out against St. Louis. He was decent in that game, only one strikeout. I don't think, at least for my money, Quantrill is in play on this slate at 7K against this Twins lineup. Really friendly hitting conditions at Target Field tonight, maybe the best of the entire year. 80 degrees, humid, winds blowing out to center field. So a little bit scary for both these pitchers, including Louis Varland, who was, I think he was chalked like a couple times at the beginning of the year. Went horribly for him.
Just got murdered.
Yeah. His stats on the season, he's 0-4 with a 9 ERA and a whip over 2. Just got absolutely crushed in April. They sent him down to the minor leagues, where frankly, he didn't pitch that well, but he does get the call here, going to make the start. He is pretty stretched out. I think you can expect close to 90 pitches from him. And man, a 6K pitcher on this slate where I do want to spend down at pitching if I can. I can't really pass up Louis Varland. He is going to be, I think, pretty popular tonight. Wouldn't shock me to see him, 20% owned, something like that. But 6K against the Rockies, I'm probably going to take the chance on. I am going to take the chance for sure on some Louis Varland. Just how much I want is the bigger question. I'll probably be a little bit over the field at that 15 to 20% number. Not playing Rockies bats. I think there are worse ideas because of Varland. I mean, who knows what we're going to see from him. We know he's going to be popular. The Rockies won't be, but I probably won't get there myself. Maybe Ryan McMahon in the cleanup spot, I think, as a one-off is fine. And then the Twins, I think, are interesting against Cal Quantrill, who we do not think is any good. And the ball will be flying tonight in Target Field. Royce Lewis now up to 4 home runs in 7 games this year. The dude is ridiculous. Take advantage while you can because it's probably not going to last too long before he goes back on the IL. But, man, he is a ridiculous talent. I think he's an interesting contrarian play at 5,800. I like Larnach quite a bit as well. So, yeah, the Twins are, I think, a sneaky stack. Won't be super high for me, highly owned. But, yeah, I do like them a bit. Angel Pinto. I always play 3 uniques, especially on a big slate. I think you could maybe make the case for 4 on a 12-game slate, but I'll probably keep it at 3 in my 150 tonight. Any thoughts on the uniques, Steve? And then, of course, talk about Twins and Rockies here.
Yeah, I usually run with 3 or 4, depending on the size of the slate. Varland, man, I could see him getting like 25% owned here. It's going to feel bad if you have a bunch of them and it goes terribly, but you can't argue with the spot, right? You can't drop a better spot. Huge home favorite. I guess the weather or park could be better, but home favorite against Colorado, great spot for a guy who's 6K. Yeah, it's gone terribly, but that doesn't matter for the game tonight. So, they just got completely mowed down last night by Paddock. Varland not quite that arm, but also not just a completely terrible shit kicker. So I think he's in play. I think the Twins are awesome plays here. You mentioned Royce Lewis. Yeah, last night we had, I think, 2 of the highest 4-owned players hit a home run in like the last at bat of both games, which is kind of annoying if you didn't have either of them, which I didn't. But, man, he is just smashing, like you said. And I really like the Twins a lot more against right-handed pitching. I just trust their lefty power bats more, the Larnachs, Kirilovs of the world. And yeah, Quantrill had that hot run for a while, but it's kind of coming back to earth here. He's not missing many bats, 2 combined strikeouts with 6 walks in his last 2 starts. And you get the Colorado bullpen behind him if things go poorly. Colorado bullpen 5.33 ERA on the season. That's more than a half run above the second worst bullpen, which is insane. Like that's so much worse over 65 games. So, that's a huge part of it here. Less pinch hit risk, I think, here. I think Colorado usually only uses that one left-handed arm. But yeah, I like Twins. I'm going to play some Varland just because he's so cheap and he's going to allow us to build teams that we really like. So I'll probably be right around the field. I don't want to go too far over on him because I could see it going horribly wrong. But the strikeout prop is high. It's higher than Brian Woo's on this slate. So definitely something to that piques your interest. That's for sure.
Yeah, the Rockies, their closer, Jalen Beeks, is a lefty. And then they just have one other lefty in the pen. He hasn't pitched in a few days. So, good chance he comes in. I will say, with the new rules, or they're not that new, but you got to face 3 batters when you come into the game. And I don't think they want to bring in a lefty, to face Larnach, and then that pitcher would have to face Correa and Royce Lewis from the left side. So Larnach a little bit safer than normal, I would say. Still a chance he gets pinch hit for. Same with Kirilloff. That would probably be where they would use it. That Kirilloff in the 8-hole, you face Margot, whatever, and then Larnach, that kind of 8-9-1. So some risk. I do still like Trevor Larnach, though. 4K. He's making more contact recently, and I do certainly like the matchup quite a bit against Cal Quantrill. He is my favorite bat overall on the Twins is Mr. Larnach. Did you touch on the Rockies? Any interest in going there against a chalky, we think, probably pretty bad pitcher overall?
Yeah, no, not really. I kept the second baseman then that they just called up in the pool, guy with some speed who's super, super cheap. We were talking before the show, there aren't that many guys under 3K that are in play today. So anyone that I think is in a reasonable spot, I'm just going to keep in the pool just in case it gets me a team, that pops, with him as a one-off. I'm fine with that, especially at second base, which is usually a weaker position overall.
Yeah, Dale Amador hitting 9th, but he's 2,200, second base, some speed, some power, switch hitter, probably going to stay in there for the entire game. And like you said, very few reasonable cheap bats. I certainly think he's one of the best sub 3K plays on this slate. So good call on Mr. Amador there. Let's get to Pittsburgh and St. Louis up next. This one in St. Louis. We've got Miles Michaelis on the hill for the St. Louis Cardinals, a pitcher that, frankly, I normally like to take some bats against. Don't know how many of them I'm going to get to today on the Pirates. I think Brian Reynolds and O'Neal Cruz are both pretty reasonable plays against him, but, not the best park to hit in. Obviously not the greatest lineup in the world from the Pirates. A lot of good spots today. So I don't know if I'll get to too many Pittsburgh bats myself. But then Paul Skeens, rookie phenom for the Pirates, certainly lived up to the expectations so far. And listen, he's had a couple big games. Put up nearly 40 fantasy points against the Cubs, nearly 30 against the Tigers, and held his own against the Dodgers. 8 strikeouts, 3 earned runs over 5 innings in his last start. He looks fantastic. I have, again, questions about how long his arm can hold up throwing at the velocity he does, but for as long as it does, he's going to be one of the best pitchers in the major leagues. And a good matchup here, too, against the Cardinals, who have been a little bit better as of late, but still certainly a team to target. And Skeens is absolutely capable of mowing down any hitter in the league, any lineup in the league, including, of course, this, mediocre, I would say mediocre at best, St. Louis team. So Paul Skeens is my SP1 today. I would take him straight up over Zach Wheeler, and you do get a nice discount, a little bit of a discount, I guess, on DraftKings of $1,100, 9,400 Skeens to 10.5K Wheeler. I am trying to get as much Skeens as I can. I'll say it. He does restrict me a little bit on the bats that I want, right? I want as much Ellie as I want. I want Judge and Soto and Ohtani, right? And so he does, kind of restrict you a little bit. Not that many cheap bats, but I do love Skeens here. I think he pitches really well. And I do think he's the pitcher, in my eyes, most likely to break the slate and put up 35 or 40 where you do kind of really need him. So I will have plenty of Skeens. No Michaelis for me on this slate. And then just a smattering, I guess, of Pirates bats. What do I use, Steve? Pittsburgh and St. Louis here.
Yeah, the main interest has got to be Skeens. Already pitching like a top 10 arm in all baseball. The strikeout rate's there. He's got a pretty significant K percentage lead on anyone else on this entire slate, which is crazy on a 12 gamer.
I think it's higher than baseball.
Yeah, by a large margin. The underlying stuff looks awesome. 2.15x FIP, 2.29 Sierra, 2.79 expected ERA. He looks awesome out there. He got tagged by Ohtani, but he survived that Dodgers start. His strikeout upside just keeps his floor, I think, so high because he's going to strike out 7-8 guys every start with the upside to just smash like he did in that one Cubs game. Where
he could realistically, like I think he'll have a game here where he gets like 15 strikeouts, where he's just locked in and pounding the strike zone, and they just can't touch him.
Yeah,
I think predicting when that's going to be is tough, but I think it could happen in literally any matchup, of course, including this one.
Yeah, I agree, and he's my SP1 on the slate. Going to be having him on my main lineup. Yeah, the Cardinals have been better, but I'm just going to keep betting on him basically in every matchup. I played him in my main lineup against the Dodgers at the same price last time, so I'm, I'm not scared to go back after. I thought he looked great in that Dodgers start overall. On the Pirates side, I think I'll add Nick Gonzalez. I think he's a good young stick to the O'Neill Cruz, Brian Reynolds one-off list. I think Gonzalez is going to continue to hit well. He has an OPS over 800 so far, and he's at second. So, no Michaelis for me. I just don't think he has the upside on a 12-gamer to actually be in the winner. So it's going to be well over the field on Skeens, a couple of Pirates one-offs, and that's about it here.
Yeah, we are very similar on this Pittsburgh-St. Louis game. Getting as much Skeens into my lineups as I can. Sabres got him at 40% owned. I'm hoping I haven't run my final 150 yet. Obviously, I'm hoping I'm not well under the field, but I don't know if I'll be able to get to 40% just on the way I want to build. What about you? Do you think you can get up to that field mark of 40%?
I don't think he's going to be quite that high, but I will have that much. Since my pool's smaller and I'm running 20, it's pretty easy for me to get over on the guys I want, especially because I'm going to have guys like Kikuchi, Luzardo, Thorpe, who are literally going to be like 3 to 5%. So I don't have to play a ton of those guys to get over the field anyways.
All right. That is Pittsburgh and St. Louis. Certainly looking forward to watching Mr. Skeens tonight. Let's get to New York and Kansas City. Good hitting weather in Kauffman Stadium tonight. One of the higher totals on the slate, sitting at 9.5. We've got Brady Singer pitching for the Kansas City Royals. I have not been a believer in him pretty much ever. Was big on the Guardians in his last start. Should have gone way better than it did. 9 hits over 3 2/3 innings and only managed 2 earned runs, 3 runs overall against him. But just, in my opinion, a very average arm, probably a below league average arm, frankly, is Brady Singer. And, wind blowing out, humid, hot in Kansas City. Pretty good place to hit tonight. You do, in general, want lefties against Singer. So, Juan Soto is at the top of my list. I'm a little bit worried about the elbow, frankly. Missed, 3 or 4 games. Had an MRI. We just don't know.
I was shocked that he came back so soon. I thought he was going to have Tommy John surgery.
Yeah, who knows what's going on there? The Yankees are kind of notoriously shrouded in their injury news. Even like the Garrett Cole stuff, they're like, "Oh, he's going to be totally fine." And now, he's going to miss 3 months here. So I don't know what to do with Soto. I will have less Soto than I would have if this injury didn't pop up a few days ago. I will still include him, of course. We'll still have some Judge. But, yeah, I would have a boatload of Soto in this game, if not for the injury. And then Marcus Stroman pitching for the Yankees. No interest there for me at 8,400. Just too expensive in a pretty tough matchup going up against Kansas City. I'm not going to have many Royals bats either against Stroman. Just doesn't get blown up all that often. It did happen in his last start, but typically a pretty safe pitcher, not someone that you really want to load up the wagons against him, in my opinion. And of course, no Singer at all for me. So just bats in this game, mostly on the Yankees side. I will say I'll have probably less exposure to this game than I like. It's scary because I wouldn't be shocked at all if Singer got completely nuked. But where do you stand, Steve? Yankees and Royals?
Yeah, I'm with you on Singer. 2-pitch guys aren't gonna, be at the top of my list for guys that I'm playing.
Not when you're throwing like 92 and you have 2 pitches anyway. It's not great for Singer.
Especially at 8,600 against the Yankees. So that's not happening. And also Stroman up over 8K. Don't have any interest there. The best plays in this game are the Yankees. I feel like every time I'm on this show, it's like, all right, the Yankees are facing a mediocre right-handed pitcher. Let's play him, I think the Yankees have probably made the most money for people in MLB DFS this season. Like, they've had so many big games in spots like this. They're not the easiest to stack if you want both Soto and Judge, obviously. The injury might make that just a little bit easier because, like, maybe you leave Soto off until you see the power, right? Like, he had a hit or two last night, but they were kind of bleeders. So
his ownership won't be impacted at all because his projections aren't impacted, and most people are simply making money or making lineups off of projections. Like, I mean, frankly, a lot of the people piling in entries, like, I just think they don't even care that he could be a little bit banged up.
Right. Yeah. So what I've already done is bumped up Judge, bumped down Soto in my personal projections. But yeah, awesome spot. Sabres got the Yankees with the highest simulated team total on the entire slate. Their ownership has come down throughout the day. DC, when I looked earlier, they were higher than Arizona. Now I see Arizona as the highest projected team total here, ownership. So, I'm in on Yankees yet again against a right-handed pitcher. There's no reason to stop now. We've been saying, as long as this lineup's healthy, they're going to crush. I thought that was going to end with the Soto thing, but here we are 4 days later, and they have the same lineup that they did. So, I'm going to keep riding it. But yeah, for the meantime, I'm going to be a bit cautious. I mean, it's not like Soto's price came down with the injury, so he's still at 6,200 or whatever.
Yeah, I kind of want to see it at least once from Soto post-injury before I dive back in there at that high price tag. Judge smashing 460 plus. Yes, he does seem to do that fairly frequently, so would not be shocked at all to see Judge absolutely crush. That's 6 games, first 6 games on the slate. Got a good crew watching. Hit the like button if you haven't yet done so. We do appreciate that. And, of course, we've got everything you need. Cores, articles, playbooks, U.S. Open coming up on Thursday. You can sign up over at runpuresports.com. Use promo code DC15. We'll get you 15% off your first weekly or monthly payment. All right, on to the second half of the slate. Toronto and the Milwaukee Brewers. Brewers continue to be one of the surprise teams on the season. Scary matchup for lefties. Yusei Kikuchi, another one who got off to that monster start early in the year. He did have a big start against Baltimore last time out, but has been a little bit shaky for the most part in the month of May. Just 89 pitches in each of the last 2 games, 56 in that start. He got blown up against Detroit. So I do have some concerns, Steve, that Kikuchi is slowing down a little bit. And I think this might be one that we disagree on for the most part. Kikuchi did not make my final pitcher pool. I'm not going to play him here in Milwaukee against a Milwaukee offense that I, really kind of do fear for the most part. Mostly right-handed bats in there as well. So no Kikuchi for me. I won't play a ton of Milwaukee. They're just expensive. Joey Ortiz, 3,500. I'll play a little bit of him as maybe mini stacks or in one-offs. But Contreras, Adames, Hoskins, Gary Sanchez crushing lefties this year. I just couldn't get to Kikuchi on the road here. He'll go up against Carlos Rodriguez, making his MLB debut. It's actually been pretty decent in the minor leagues, at least in terms of strikeout to walk ratio. 6,900 for him. I'm not playing many Blue Jays, but couldn't play Rodriguez either against a pretty contact-oriented Blue Jays lineup. So not a ton in this game for me. What are you doing with Blue Jays and Brewers, Steve?
Yeah, I've got Kikuchi in the pool. He's projected so low owned that I don't need to play much to have more than the field here. He's been awesome pretty much all season. He had hiccup 2 or 3 starts ago in Detroit. That was an odd start. Bounced back in a huge way against my Orioles last time. The velocity was back up. He looked great. I feel like people just think that he's the same guy from 2020, 2021, where he would just get blown up by right-handed bats. He's been awesome all season. All the underlying stuff backs it up. We've discussed on the show the Brewers, like they smash right-handed pitching. They've been below average against lefties. I just pulled up the hand in this chart here. 24th in weighted runs created plus, 28th in ISO. So really lacking the pop against left-handed pitching. Do I think Kikuchi's like the best play in that range? No, but that's why he's going to be 6% owned. I'm going to have him in the pool. I think that there are paths that he beats, specifically a guy like Brian Wu, who's going to be like 40% owned. So I'll be under the field on Wu and over on Kikuchi, just because I do think that their projection should be closer, or their ownership should be closer than it is here.
Yeah,
not a clean spot, but that's why he's going to be super low owned. I'm betting on the arm. He's been rock solid all season. Velocity's way up. Career low walk rate for him, I think, has been the biggest thing, right? Like when he's given up the power, it hasn't been after he's walked 2 or 3 guys. That tends to add up quickly. So yeah, on him here. And then I didn't get to much Toronto. Saber really likes Toronto here, betting against the youngster in his first start. The Blue Jays have been better of late. They aren't a team that I have used much this season, but over the last month they've been good. They've got another. We were talking about cheap guys. Horowitz is leading off for 2,800 here for the Blue Jays. So we're searching for cheap bats. Kiermaier's in there in the 9 hole at 2,600. So I think that's more of what I'll use them for. Like I'm not spending $5K for Vlad on this slate. I think I'm just going to use a couple of the cheap bats from Toronto in this game.
Yeah, that makes sense. The Brewers have some pretty damn good arms in the back end of their bullpen as well. I believe all of whom are available for this game. So, unless the Blue Jays really, really get to the rookie early, which is of course possible, could be some tough sledding for them in the second half of the game. And I'll be looking elsewhere from the Blue Jays tonight. I'm with you. I think Horowitz is fine, just because he's cheap and leading off. I mean, obviously a fine play there, but not going to have, I don't think, any Blue Jays stacks in my 150 tonight. That brings us to the West Coast. 5 games out west tonight. I can't remember a slate with quite that many, but 5 games to talk about. Should be a good night slate. I actually haven't looked at it quite yet, but when the Reds score 1 run, might be firing up the night slate, chasing some losses tonight. Should be a decent one. I'm sure we'll have content up for that on over at Run Pure Sports. Mangone, I think, does some of that stuff. So I'm hoping not to be too invested in the night slate tonight, but hey, you never know. LA Angels and Arizona Diamondbacks. First game we will talk about. I think a really good game, or at least I think so, for offense. We've got 2 lefties on the hill. Jose Suarez pitching for the Angels. Don't know how long he's going to go into this game. He's been pitching out of the bullpen most of the year. I would guess, maybe 50, 60 pitches, I think, for Suarez. He's been not great this year, or really in a long time. Gets absolutely tattooed by right-handed bats. One of the highest barrel rates, ISOs, whatever stat you want to look at. It's ugly for Suarez against right-handed power. And that's the strength of this Diamondbacks offense by far. Ketel Marte, Christian Walker, Suarez, Suarez, Gurriel. We've got a cheap catcher who's projected to hit second tonight in Gabriel Moreno. So looks like an awesome spot for the Diamondbacks. You mentioned they might be the highest owned team on this slate tonight, which I think gives me a little hesitancy with so many good spots to go to. Do I really want to be playing the true chalk of the night? But no question, awesome spot for the D-backs. And I think a sneaky good spot, I don't know how sneaky, but a really good spot for the Angels, who, we mentioned how good the Mets have been against lefties over the last month. The Angels are right there with them. I'm not sure, maybe everybody's aware of just how good the Angels have been against left-handed pitching, and maybe just how people maybe not aware of just how bad Jordan Montgomery has been. He was a free agent in the offseason, missed all spring training, signed late, didn't even make his first start till April 19th. And frankly, hasn't gotten going the entire year. He almost looks out of shape to me out on the mound. Was booed off the mound in his last start against the Giants, put up 6 earned runs in just 2 innings. And, he just doesn't have the velocity. He's been down a little bit. And it's a great matchup for the Angels. And even when Montgomery's at his best, Steve, he's still a guy you don't hate targeting with right-handed bats. So this looks like an awesome spot to me for the Angels. They're not super cheap, but certainly cheap enough to fit in Rengifo, Ward, Pilar, Ohapi, Joe Adell, Zach Neto. All these guys seem like strong plays against Montgomery to me. So I'm in on this game for offense. I actually think I'll have more Angels than I will D-backs, partly due to the ownership gap between the two. I'm sure you're in on this game for offense. Talk to me. What are you doing with D-backs and Angels here?
Yeah, this is the game stack that I wrote up in the playbook today. Both of the arms that signed close to opening day have not pitched well. Him and Snell have been hurt and bad.
We got a combined ERA of like 9 on the year.
Yeah. We actually just got the Arizona lineup as you were talking. Perdomo is back after being out for a long time. So no more Kevin Newman. Thank God.
Yeah.
It's Marte Moreno, Gurriel, Walker, Grichuk, Suarez, Carroll, Blaze Alexander, Perdomo. So even better lineup than usual because you have an actual stick in there in the 9-hole. But yeah, I agree. I think the Angels are super interesting in this spot. Like you said, they've been crushing lefties. Montgomery's just been terrible. So I think this is, like I said, the best spot to just stack up the entire game on the entire slate. So I will be heavily invested in both sides. I'm not on either pitcher here. I did want to mention, we don't have the lineup yet for the Angels, but they do have a free guy at both second and third. So that could help as well. As we're going through, we're trying to find these cheaper guys that can help. If he's in your stack, that's even better. So we'll see where he ends up in the lineup. Saber hasn't projected at 9th. But it doesn't really matter to me. If he's in the lineup and I'm playing the Angels, I'm probably playing that free guy. So love both sides here. I'll be interested to see the Angels lineup when it does come out, though.
Yeah, hopefully not. Hopefully we get it before lock. We'll see. We still have, of course, nearly an hour and a half to go. So we'll see. But I'm with you. Angels look awesome. And I've seen some sites have Stefanik projected to lead off for this team, which if true and if out before lock would probably make him one of the highest owned players on the slate at 2K. So
I kind of hope he gets 9th, so he's not crazy.
Yeah, for sure. That's Arizona and the Angels. Awesome game there for offense, or at least Steve and I are hoping so. Let's get to Chicago White Sox and the Seattle Mariners up next. Mariners big favorites in this one, sitting around minus 225. We've got Brian Wu pitching for Seattle, who has been awesome this year. I mean, we're up to 30-plus innings for Wu. He's got an ERA just over 1, giving up like a whip of 0.5, just almost unheard of from Wu.
Hold the phone.
Hit you, though.
Wu is just scratched. It just came through. Good timing.
Well, I'm glad they scratched him now and not 1 inning into the game, because I was planning on playing some Wu.
Me too.
But
Jonathan Diaz was starting. I'll look him up while you're.
Yeah, we don't need to talk anymore about Brian Wu. He's off the slate. But we do need to talk about Drew Thorpe pitching for the White Sox. He was the return for the White Sox in the Dylan Cease the Dylan Cease trade with the San Diego Padres. Righty with it looks to me like a mediocre fastball and slider, but a very, very strong changeup that generates a ton of whiffs. Thorpe has been excellent in the minor leagues. I have some, I don't know if concern is the right word, questions about how good he'll be in the long term. It's pretty hard to succeed or be an ace, at least, with the changeup as your best pitch. I do think it's a decent pitch to come up with and debut with. Hitters haven't seen it, so he's got a little bit of a unique pitching style. And he obviously has a great matchup here. We've been picking on this Mariners team all year long. A lot of strikeouts to be had. Great place to pitch. And I guess a little bit of chance at the win here as well with, now that he doesn't have to go up against Brian Wu and gets Diaz instead. I do have interest in Thorpe at 7,700. Not sure what the ownership is going to look like. Last time I checked, Sabres got him at very low ownership, maybe 5% or so, which I think could be fair. So I like Thorpe some at 7,700. I think it's a close call between he and Tyler McGill. I think McGill is the safer option. Thorpe might be actually the one with more upside. Should be stretched out. I think he'll be a full go. White Sox probably planning to, let him pitch. Let's see what you got. So hard to know what to expect for sure, but I do think he's at least got some upside against Seattle. No Brian Wu. Did you see happen? I was talking, obviously.
I just pulled it
up. What's the information there?
Yeah, so they're going to start Jonathan Diaz, who's been starting at AAA. He's fully stretched, over a strikeout per inning, and he's 4K on this slate.
Ooh.
He's got a 2.98 ERA, xFIP of 4, but he's a long-term minor league free agent, pretty much. But he is 4K, fully stretched on this slate, so that changes some things for sure, especially down low. But yeah, I'll talk about the White Sox guy while you're looking that up. Yeah, I think Thorpe is interesting. I wish he came in a bit cheaper here.
Yeah,
and he's 7,700. He's only 400 clear of McGill and 400 less than Luzardo. But like you said, guys are coming up with good changeups. I think it's an easy way to kind of get your feet wet at the MLB level. It's a easy pitch to repeat if you have a good one. Like you said, Seattle just the second highest strikeout rate against right-handed pitching. I think Thorpe is in play, and now this 4K guy is definitely in play, starting at home in Seattle against the White Sox. He is nothing special. They picked him up as a minor league free agent this winter. He's 27 years old. I think an interesting play for sure. Yeah, I'm seeing 11 starts and 66 innings. So, it's not like he's been super held back at all, as far as pitch counts coming up. So, interesting thing to happen on the show because Wu, like we said, was projected at almost 40% ownership. So this shakes up the slate a lot, especially for you who's playing 150 lineups tonight. And we're probably going to have a bunch of Wu. So, but now we do a 4K arm that's facing the White Sox at home. So I think that's at least interesting.
This is just what we needed, Steve. Just what we needed. Wanted to pay for bats. Now we can. Mr. Jonathan Diaz.
Come on down.
Looking at his baseball reference page right now, he gets like the top 3 matchup in the league. Gets to pitch at home. He was pitching in Tacoma in the AAA Pacific Coast League, which is obviously
very hitter friendly.
Yeah. Very, very hitter friendly. He's striking people out. DC Salvador. You guys know I love my 4K pitchers. Now I got a decent one at home and a good matchup. I'm going to have a lot of Jonathan Diaz, almost certainly. I'll, obviously got an hour here to research and see his pitch counts. He did have a bad start in his last outing, but threw 76 pitches in that. Prior to that, it was 84, 87, 96, 99, 89. So he is, a fully stretched arm. I'm looking up the Seattle bullpen. Yeah, they played yesterday. A bunch of teams had the day off, but they did pitch or did play. They used how many arms? 3 arms. So a bullpen that could use the day off, right? Use they don't want to be taxed.
If they get the day off, then we're winning the slate.
I'll be in the winner's circle if the bullpen gets the day off for sure. So I'm definitely playing a lot of Diaz. Honestly,
someone in chat said the Angels lineup is out. That free guy is leading off.
All right. Good. Get more people off Diaz. Play the cheap guy. You don't need to play Diaz. Again, I don't want to commit to anything right now, but a decent chance Diaz will be my highest owned pitcher on the slate, I would say, all things considered. So sure, that'll go well.
How about if we're not on Diaz, that, we obviously weren't playing any bats against Wu. Say you want to play Wheeler Skeens teams. I'm looking at the White Sox lineup here. Do we like anything there or no?
I mean, Luis Robert would be the guy I would play. He's been crushing. But
did you see the bomb that he hit last night? When he makes clean contact, the ball just absolutely flies. It's crazy.
They're saying they're going to trade him. I wonder where he's going to go. The Dodgers is my guess.
To trade him quick before he gets hurt again.
No, I know they should be on the phones, but the White Sox might be too dumb to actually trade him before he gets hurt. But yes, in on the Jonathan Diaz train. Where do you think he comes in on? Because we obviously have no projections whatsoever on that yet.
For me or on the slate, I'm probably going to have like 30-40% of this guy.
Yeah, me too. But what about on the slate? How high do you think he gets?
People are very reluctant, especially with late news like this, to play guys that they don't know. Also, we have Varland, who projects well already at 6K, and we have the Padres arm who projects well already. So it's not like there's nobody between 9K and Diaz. So I'm hoping that Varland and Vasquez take ownership, because I'll just take the $2,000 discount on this guy.
And frankly, I mean, these contests most of them are pretty close to full, right? And I think a lot of people most people maybe won't change their entire lineup to get the 4K pitcher. I will, and I think most people should, but he'll be low. He'll be way lower owned than he would have been if this happened yesterday or 6 hours ago. So yeah, Jonathan Diaz, you can do it, buddy. I believe in you. I don't know who you are, but I believe in you, and we'll be sweating it out with Mr. Diaz tonight.
Oh yeah.
All right, we got 3 more games to talk about here. We got to keep it moving since we got some big edits to make in the next hour and 20 minutes. Oakland and San Diego up next. We've got Randy Vasquez on the hill, 5,600. He was one, Steve, that I was going to probably have a decent amount of him as the cheapest viable pitcher. I would definitely prefer Diaz at this point. I'll take the unknown against the we know Vasquez isn't any good, right? It's just he has a matchup here. He's cheap. Good matchup here against Oakland, who strikes out a ton. It's really gone cold. I know they had that stretch where they were putting up some runs, but it's been a rough ride for the Oakland A's. Got a low team total. I still will have some Vasquez, but I will be transferring a decent amount of that for sure to Jonathan Diaz. And then JP Sears going for the A's. I use him at times. I think you do as well. This isn't the spot, in my opinion, to use JP Sears against this Padres lineup. And then the Padres look good. Tatis, Profar, Machado, specifically Tatis and Profar, I think are pretty strong plays here against JP Sears, who does get hit hard by right-handed bats, does give up a fair bit of home runs. But what are you doing with Padres and A's?
Yeah, probably no bats here. I like the bats elsewhere. I'm not going to play as many in this park. I thought the Padres were better placed last night on the smaller slate where we didn't have that many good offensive spots overall. If it was a side, I would probably play the Padres power. If Vasquez is going to be owned at all, I think Oakland, this is before we had the 4K guy, like I was looking at some Oakland cheap secondary stacks like Soderstrom, guys like that. But probably won't be on much at all in this game. Like you said, I use Sears in certain spots. It's definitely not here against the Padres, who I've completely just given up playing pitchers against the fucking Padres. They just don't strike out, like you said. With the addition of Arise, I think he's also kind of rubbed off on his teammates here. You know, you're seeing good at bats throughout the lineup, deep counts. So I might be completely off this game on all sides, honestly. This might be a better night slate stack. Play some Padres here against Sears.
We just got news. Brian Wooscratch, Anthony delivering the news to the people here. Anthony, go ahead and tell us your opinion on Jonathan Diaz. We're all curious what to do with him. Let's get to Houston and the San Francisco Giants. Ronel Blanco, Jordan Hicks, two pretty solid pitchers on the hill, both throwing from the right side. Good place to pitch in San Francisco. I haven't played much Ronel Blanco at these, frankly, kind of exorbitant price tags. He was 10.7K last time out. I actually kind of like him here a little bit against the Giants team. It's kind of hard to click on him over Paul Skeens, but the ownership gap between the two is going to be massive. I think you'll see Skeens 40% owned, Blanco 5%. Tired Houston bullpen, and they let Blanco throw 100 pitches pretty much, or close to 100 pitches pretty much every time out. So I do like him a little bit as more of a game theory type of play. And then Hicks, I don't think I'm going to get there tonight, but I'm not playing any Astros bats against him either, and not on the Giants hitters. So really the only guy I'll have much at all in this game is Ronel Blanco, who I will be over the field on that 5% number, especially now that we got a cheap pitcher to pair him with. But where do you stand on Giants and Astros?
Yeah, I think the best play in this game is Blanco. I'll keep this quick. I'm not going to have any bats in this game. I'll probably mix in some Blanco, but no bats.
All right, quick one there. Let's get to the last game on the slate. I think a pretty interesting one here. Dodgers and Rangers. Runs expected in this one. Total sitting at 9. We've got the corpse of James Paxton pitching against the Rangers, who have been disappointing offense this year, especially against lefties. I still like them quite a bit against Paxton. They're being a little bit careful with Paxton recently. I guess in theory. You give up, 7 runs in 1.2 innings against the Pirates, so I'm not sure it was
easy to be careful when he's getting shit on.
Yeah, exactly. Do you know what happened in that Mets game? Only went 3 innings.
Was that the rain game?
I'm looking.
I'm not sure. I know I played Mets.
No, they just said he was going to be limited, so he threw 50 pitches. So I'm not really sure. The Dodgers did have the day off. If Paxton's really limited to 50 pitches or whatever, it makes the Rangers much less appealing. Again, I don't know that for sure. I do really like this matchup for the Rangers against Paxton, but don't like it, of course, against the Dodgers bullpen. So tough to know what to do. I will certainly have some Rangers in my lineups. Actually, I'm just going to make a call of Wyatt Langford. Hits his first over-the-fence home run of the season. He had one inside the Parker. Like him quite a bit here. Semien, Garcia, Jonah Heim, I think are all pretty good plays, at least against Paxton. Those guys are in my pool for sure. And, of course, the Dodgers are as well against Dane Dunning, kind of a league average arm. He's pitched decently this season, but wouldn't expect him to have a ton of success. It's the usual suspects for the Dodgers, right? Betts, Ohtani, Freeman, Will Smith, Teoscar, the guys you want, as always, for the Dodgers, who have looked really good offensively all season long. Over to you, Steve, for the last game of the night. Texas and the Dodgers. Who you got for us?
Yeah, we don't have the Texas lineup yet, I don't think. Seager missed the entire weekend with that hammy. If he's out, that makes him even less interesting here. I think the Dodgers were going to be a team that I cut before we had a 4K pitcher. But, they just they just look better now. Definitely going to play some Dodgers against Dane Dunning, who I don't think is any good. The Dodgers have been smashing, specifically at home. Like, we always think, when they come east that we want to play them. We do want to play them there, but their stats at home have been awesome. So I think the Dodgers are better plays now than they were, 20 minutes ago? And I will be including them now in my 5-mans because I am going to play this Seattle guy.
The Woo scratch to a viable 4K pitcher completely changed a 12-game slate. Woo is going to be second or third more highest owned pitcher. Now we've got, Sabres got Diaz that was kind of what I think. Diaz has a real chance to put up 15 DraftKings points here, which would probably make him the best point per dollar pitcher on the entire slate if he does so.
By far.
And so now you can play all these bad. My lineups are going to be completely different than they would have looked like if not for the Woo scratching.
Just think, if you had Brian Reynolds projected for 15.8, he would also be the highest owned player on the slate. Yeah. He's 4K. He's the same price.
Yeah. I've really no idea what Diaz's ownership is going to end up like. And of course, no idea if he's going to actually pitch well, but I do feel pretty confident in saying he is a really good point per dollar play on this slate.
We were on the slate talking about Varland and Vasquez being good point per dollar plays, and he's, in a better matchup and 2K cheaper. So, and
frankly, might be just as good as those guys. Wouldn't be shocked if he prove that tonight. So we'll see. But let's get to stacks, pitchers, home run calls, and overall offensive plays. We've got the same answer, I think, on favorite stacks. But my favorite stack is the Reds. Talked about them at length, apparently for too long, according to the now banned whoever that was. He's out of here. I think the Reds crush Kinsey. Stolen bases, home runs, all that stuff. They are my favorite stack overall. Favorite contrarian stack. I think a lot of different ways you can go here. I don't even know if they're going to be contrarian, but whatever. I'm going with the Angels against Jordan Montgomery. Absolutely love them tonight. So Reds and Angels for me. Over to you, Steve.
Yeah, my favorite stack. I'll go with the Yankees here. Now with the 4K guy, I think you can take more chances and play both Soto and Judge. I was not going to be able to do that before, but I can now. So I'll go with the Yankees and my contrarian. I'll go with the Dodgers now that we can afford the Dodgers 5-man with the guys that we want. There's no lineup out yet. Hopefully, this is news for guys in late games within an hour of lock. So hopefully people have already built, they're not going to switch over to Dodgers now that we can afford them.
Absolutely. Most important pitcher. My favorite combo, it's going to be a popular one, but it's going to be the Paul Skeens, Jonathan Diaz combination. When we were talking about Skeens, I was worried about not being able to get as much of him as I wanted. Well, now you can. So Skeens and Diaz for me. What about you, Steve?
Yeah, those will be my two in my main. But I'll go with two of the guys in the mid-range that might get completely lost now. I really like both pitchers in that Mets game, specifically the McGill side. So I'll go with McGill as my favorite mid-range / low-owned pitcher.
Love it. Home run call. Who's going deep tonight, Steve?
I'll go to that Angels-Arizona game. I'll go Ketel Marte. He's just been absolutely dominant against left-handed pitching this season.
Yeah, we love both the Angels and the D-backs in that game. Best game stack overall of the night, I would say.
Yeah.
Home run call for me, I'm going Mark Vientos, hitting sixth for the Mets. He's got awesome power, and you can certainly get to a Jesus Luzardo mistake against the lefty there. So Mark Vientos, my home run call. Favorite overall hitter on the slate. Again, an easy one for me. He will be my highest owned hitter, no question about it. Come on down, Mr. Ellie De La Cruz. Hoping for a slate-breaking performance from Ellie tonight. What about you, Steve? Favorite hitter on the entire slate?
Yeah, I'll go with the guy who's sitting right before him. I'll go with TJ Friedl. I do think that this Reds lineup just looks so much better when they have the Friedel-Fraley combo both back. This team's going to run at will if they can get on base. We think they will, via walks, via hits, and hopefully they score a bunch of runs early, and then Diaz closes it out for us.
Yeah, it's okay if they don't, if they don't get on base, if they're running around the bases on home runs, because that could happen against
jogging. Yeah, light jog.
I lose all my stolen bases bet, but that's all right. We can get 5 home runs off McKenzie. We'll settle for that. That'll do it for this show. We do appreciate all you guys watching, of course. Hopefully helped you guys pick out some winners. Hopefully see some RPS logos. Some of you guys up top of the tournament tonight. Fun show. Got about an hour to lock in the lineups. And the show will be back same time, same place tomorrow. Until then, he's Steve Boyden. I'm Draft Sheet. We're out of here.